Nebraska farmers and ranchers are taking a big hit from tariffs, up to $1 billion impact. This week, we take a look at the state of the farm economy. And despite trade disputes, learn how it's been a record year for American cattlemen. And all in a day's work, a day in the life of a rancher, it's time to grow. Welcome to the show. The trade war could be costing Nebraska billions. That's what a new analysis from Nebraska Farm Bureau finds, and it comes on the heels of that announcement from the president that he's reached a ceasefire of sorts with China. Here's more.
When was the last time we had a president that talked about agriculture as much as President Trump has?
Nebraska Farm Bureau members kicked off their convention on the same day the president tweeted farmers will be big winners as the U.S. agrees to hold off on slapping more tariffs on China.
The Chinese have also said they will increase the amount of agricultural exports that they will bring in. They'll start doing that immediately. We need to see what that is before we can, jump up and down in celebration. I think when we start seeing ships go, hopefully soybeans will be on those ships.
Nebraska Farm Bureau leaders say soybean exports to China have dropped 97% as a result of retaliatory tariffs. Now they've calculated the impact of the trade war, finding Nebraska has been hit in a big way.
Nebraska farmers potentially lost receipts ranging anywhere from $695 million to just over $1 billion.
Economists say tariffs dampened corn prices by 14 to 21 cents a bushel and up to $1.54 a bushel on soybeans. Pork lost almost $20 a head. And the Farm Bureau analysis estimates that has resulted in a few thousand jobs lost in the Cornhusker state.
We're dealing with people's livelihoods here, and so it's not just an academic discussion. This is a discussion that's real to people who live on the land, make their living on the land.
2 years into the president's term, farmers have some frustrations. But Farm Bureau leaders say they support his efforts to level the playing field, and the strategy may be starting to pay off.
This is a president that is really trying, I think, his best to try to get a deal together for agriculture. But certainly, things change all the time. There are members of his administration that I wouldn't say are as farmer-friendly as it relates to trade. So from our standpoint, it's a busy time, but I think there's a lot of benefit there for agriculture, and hopefully, again, we can see some end to some of these things.
Farm Bureau leaders say it's going to take a long time to reverse the impact these tariffs have had. Steve White, NTV News, Kearney. Farm Bureau leaders say achieving tax relief is like turning around an aircraft carrier. Farm Bureau State President Steve Nelson of Kearney County says there was a time state senators showed little interest in taxes. He says that's changed and says he's excited about a new class of lawmakers who will be sworn in next month. Nelson says there's been progress on tax relief, but says it's been tough to right the ship.
But I will tell you today that the USS property tax carrier is turning the corner. It's no longer headed in the wrong direction, it is headed in the right direction. So what does it take to bring that ship home?
Nelson says it takes 33 votes, and that means support from senators in Omaha and Lincoln. Cattlemen, too, weigh in on taxes. Taxes, along with those tariffs we talked about a moment ago, and low commodity prices, it all adds up to trouble as more farmers are declaring bankruptcy. The Nebraska Cattlemen organization has been working with other groups trying to make a united effort. Of 49 senators in the legislature, around a dozen come from rural areas, so they need urban support if they want to do something on property taxes.
Lincoln and Omaha can carry this state, and unfortunately that's the truth. But we've got to work together. We do have enough ag senators that we can, use the term block some of their stuff, and so it's politics, which I don't handle very well, but it's the name of the game. 11 of the legislature's 49 senators will be new. That's nearly a quarter of the body. It's not clear what impact that will have on issues like property taxes, which quickly becomes the debate on school funding. And while that's a big concern, cattlemen are also worried about trade and promotion of beef. Despite trade issues, beef exports are strong. Later tonight on NTV, more on how they're trying to continue to grow those international markets. Steve White, NTV News, Kearney. Low prices, high taxes, and tariffs. It's a triple threat that's too much for some farmers.
Well, it's 3 strikes, and I know some guys are out. They will be selling this fall or next spring. I have burned up any working capital I had built up 2 years ago. I burned through that. So I'm very close to my banker right now. We're working together. We're formulating a plan for next year.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis says farm bankruptcies in the upper Midwest are double what they were a few years ago. In Nebraska, online records show 31 in the last year, up from 20 the year before, but also more debt to stay afloat.
And the loan amounts that farmers are having to take out to get through this for cash flow purposes going up. And so we're seeing some of those delinquencies rise a little bit too.
Commodity prices are a fraction of what they were a few years ago.
Our 2017 net farm income in the state of Nebraska is down over 60% from its highs in 2013. So that's definitely a shock to the farm economy. And so when you add these tariffs and some of the impacts there, that doesn't help.
Soybean growers have been completely shut out of China, their top market.
The soybeans are still way below break even, but yeah, I don't think it'll take very much positive news for the markets to really rejoice.
There was a bounce in the markets when President Trump announced new tariffs on China were on hold. Farmers hope it's the start of a turnaround on trade.
We'll get back into the positive margins and we'll start making money and be able to upgrade equipment and do what we need to do.
Trade, taxes, and the Farm Bill. We've seen a lot of activity on policy issues lately. Our question of the week, we wanted to know what area of farm policy matters most to you. Trade and property taxes are neck and neck for the lead, while the Farm Bill and ethanol policy are tied much farther down the list. As always, results are not scientific, but gives us a general idea what our audience thinks. Despite the trade war, the beef industry is holding its own. As Nebraska Cattlemen put on their jacket and their best hat, they've got a lot to celebrate. American beef exports are expected to rise to a record $8 billion this year.
If we see so much demand coming throughout the world for U.S. beef, quality U.S. beef is just such a big item.
As strong as the numbers are, cattlemen say it could be even better if tariffs like Japan's tax on U.S. beef are lifted.
If we eliminate that tariff or at least limit it, man, it really opens up a lot of export potential for us.
Cattlemen say exports add more than $300 per animal. Foreign markets want stomach, liver, and tongue. Many Americans don't eat.
We don't have anywhere to go with that here. If it wasn't for that export market, it may end up in a landfill or something because we just don't have a place for it to go.
Cattlemen say they still have a long way to break into China, which opened its borders to U.S. beef last year.
China, in the next 10 years, is going to see 300 million people added to the middle class. Country the size of the U.S. That's how many buyers that we're going to have out there for our product that really want it.
Rancher Dawn Caldwell of Clay County said it's why she supports organizations like the Nebraska Cattlemen to open markets and represent beef producers on issues like regulations and taxes.
If you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And we've repeated here at this meeting several times that if we are not leading the conversation and engaging in the conversation, somebody else is doing it for us and telling our story for us and creating laws and regulations for us.
On the state level, cattlemen say property taxes remains a huge concern. Steve White, NTV News, Kearney. We are here in Adams County where there's some harvest activity still taking place. That's the subject of our poll question. We know there's been rain and snow that has certainly delayed harvest. A lot of people finished up around Thanksgiving, but we want to know, do you know anyone whose harvest has extended here into December? Let us know by following Grow on Twitter and casting your votes. A large ground beef recall has been expanded to more than 12 million pounds. The USDA says JBS Tollison has recalled another 5.1 million pounds of various raw, non-intact beef products that may be contaminated with salmonella. In October, more than 6 million pounds of ground beef was recalled. The raw, non-intact beef items, including ground beef, was packaged between July 26th and September 7th. The meat was sold at Kroger and other stores. Next, we get a national perspective on trade, tariffs, and the Farm Bill. And later, spend a day in the life of a day worker.